Champions League has started again, and obviously there's been a lot of very exciting, matches and a lot of exciting results that have already come our way, and that's despite the fact that the knockouts is still very much in its infancy. And to discuss the knockouts and what it is that we can expect today over here on Sports Today, we have for you guys an interaction with, of course, Mark Seagraves, who's a former Liverpool and Manchester City player, currently does commentary on the Sony Sports Network, and you can also see him talking about the Champions League over there. Mark, thank you so much for joining us for this interaction.
Thanks, Shane. Lovely to do it.
Yeah, so I'll quickly get down to the one match which I think everyone was really excited about this week, which was of course PSG versus Bayern Munich. We saw Bayern get a pretty close win, and things really changed for PSG though once Mbappe came off the bench. But considering the way that PSG are, they're very superstar reliant, very reliant on that front three. Is that an approach that can get them Champions League glory, especially in today's era where you see counter pressing and defensiveness a lot also from even the front three? Is relying on individual brilliance such a good idea?
No, it's not. I'm a firm believer in you need to have a team ethic team where you can't. I mean, they've got three of the best footballers ever to have lived: Mbappe, Messi, and obviously Neymar. It hasn't worked for them, and it's not going to work for them this year either. I just think they should have a more of a pragmatic approach rather than having superstars or the Galacticos. Go and build a team. It don't have to be sexy names and big players. Build a team that'll be defensive wise, will be okay, and maybe have one or two of your stars. The problem with PSG, I feel, is the reason why they don't go deeper and win the Champions League is because of the league that they play in. Liga isn't the best league in terms of competitiveness week in, week out. They have good teams in there, but not every week. If you look at the Premier League, every game in there is a tough game. It's a hard game. We can say the same about the Bundesliga this year as well. And Bayern Munich have got a great squad, a great young squad as well. And Nagelsmann's got them into a good position. This was a weird game. Obviously, Mbappe came on sub, got a goal disallowed. But Bayern Munich did what Bayern Munich do. They were very, very professional, very organised, very disciplined, and taking a 1-0 win in France back into Germany was a brilliant result. And it sets the game up really well. You can't never say PSG are not going to win any game, because with the players that they do possess, they can win any game any given day. But I just feel they're too reliant on them top three. They need to get behind the scenes, the goalkeepers, defensive wise, they need to be a little bit better.
Yeah, you were speaking of, it was only a 1-0. So you had two other 1-0 results as well. Unfortunately, both the English clubs who played this week, Chelsea, Tottenham Hotspur, on the wrong end of those particular 1-0 losses. How confident do you think, they can be of turning things around, given both Spurs and Chelsea are, in fact, going to be playing at home for the second, leg?
Well, back in the day, when it used to be called the European Cup, it used to be over 2 legs. And if you went away and got beat 1-0 or drew 0-0, it was a great result, because you'll take them back home and hopefully get a result. Spurs are notoriously bad away from home and inconsistent, but at home, they're very, very good. So I think Spurs will be the favourites to go through. Chelsea played great against Dortmund. They just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. João Felix at the bar. He had another opportunity that should have gone in. So they'll fancy their chances. Their look's got to change at the moment, because, a lot of pressure's on Potter. A lot of pressure's on the team as well. All the new players, the new faces coming in. We've got to give them time. But I think the performance level Chelsea played against Dortmund was very, very high. And I think they'll fancy the chances back at Stamford Bridge as well.
Yeah, actually, I was going to lead into that next only and ask about, Graham Potter, obviously, big job for him considering we stepped up from Brighton this season. We all know how much money Chelsea's new owners have spent, but results still haven't been going their way. Is the pressure going to be creeping up? Because it doesn't matter how much fancy football you play, you still need these wins. And that's what's defined Chelsea really in this era.
Yeah, but I don't think it's the club putting the pressure on them. It's the media who are coming out and asking him all of these questions and piling that pressure on. He's not stupid. He understands. He's come from a very humble background in terms of his coaching and his playing abilities. Now he's got the job on merit, because he did an absolutely fantastic job at Brighton. Give him time. We have to, the football nowadays, if you score 3 goals, all of a sudden you're worth 100 million. If you lose 3 games, you're all of a sudden a bad manager. They've given him a contract of 4 years. They've spent a lot of money and given that to spend. So they obviously have faith in him there. Just let him go. Let's have a look at where they are this time next year. If they're still in the same position, he should walk away. Absolutely, because he's being given. But right now, that performance for me the other night tells me that the players are playing for him and they're not far away from being on track. And I think that's what it is. They've got to slowly embed all of these new players into the football club. But I'm sure he'll do a fantastic job.
Right. And obviously, speaking of English clubs, you'll be seeing 2 English clubs in action next week as well. And City, unfortunately, coming with a lot of negativity attached to them, considering, they've been charged by the Premier League of over more than 100 charges of fraud. UEFA themselves have also had an uncomfortable relation with City because remember, City had been banned by UEFA and then they had to get that overturned to the Court of Arbitration of Sport. A lot of off-field distractions. They still remain a fine football side, though. Do you think it's going to be causing them too many headaches, too many sleepless nights, or it's going to be business as usual?
I think it's business as usual. This is not going to affect the players. It's not going to affect the manager in terms of right now. But I mean, he's come out and said, if Man City have done anything wrong, I'll resign the next day. They've obviously done something wrong and he hasn't resigned. The fact of the matter is they go to the Emirates and beat Arsenal at home, shows you that the team is still firing on all cylinders. And I think, this might be something that might fire the team up, us against the rest of the world sort of thing. And they showed with that performance against Arsenal that they're all still, very hungry and they got that desire. And the same thing with the Champions League. I don't know what restrictions there's going to be put on the football club going forward. But right now, I think their head's in the right space. And, they've got a relatively easy game against RB Leipzig. They should take the care of that comfortably. And they're favourites to win the Champions League this year. Whether Guardiola stays at the end of the season or not, if he doesn't and they win the Champions League, it's a nice way to go out on, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of course, favorites to win the Champions League, they've been in up and down form of late. Can never discount Real Madrid, but they're up against Liverpool in what is essentially a rematch of last year's final. Both teams, though, as I said, they've been a bit inconsistent. Who do you think goes in favorites into what actually is a really important match for both of these teams?
It's a really important match. I don't know what we're going to get out of Liverpool. I'm a Liverpool supporter, and I'm frustrated with the performance levels. Granted, they've had a lot of injuries. All them injuries now are all fit again. Back in the squad, Jota, Van Dijk, obviously Diaz, and Firmino. So they're all back. They're all in contention to play at the weekend and obviously next week against Real Madrid. So that's a good plus side for Liverpool. They need to get their skates on because it's not been a Liverpool season this year. Real Madrid the same. They find themselves second in La Liga, comfortably behind Barcelona. So yeah, I mean, this is a huge game. Liverpool have avenging. They've got to try and avenge the 2 defeats that they've had against Real Madrid. Liverpool against Real Madrid on a Tuesday night at Anfield. The atmosphere will be fantastic. I personally can't wait because I'm going to be doing the game for Sony, and I'll be like a little kid in a sweet shop watching this game.
Absolutely. It certainly should be a very fascinating week of action. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for now. But Mark, thank you so much for joining us. And again, thank you very much for sharing your insights. If you're a fan, this is for the fans. If you're watching the Champions League in, of course, the Indian subcontinent, don't forget Sony Sports is the place to be. And thank you all for joining us for this interview. Please don't forget, like, share, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as well. And Mark, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Shane.